All right, today we're jumping into a topic that, on the surface, seems pretty simple. But as we'll see, sexual consent is often a really complex and frankly ambiguous idea that a lot of people get tripped up by. So here's our game plan. We're going to start by unpacking why there's so much confusion in the first place. Then, we'll look at the core parts of consent, introduce a super clear framework to help make sense of it all, bust some common myths, and wrap up with why this is about so much more than just a simple yes or no. Okay, first up, the consent conundrum. Why can something that seems so straightforward feel so complicated in real life? Let's get into it. I mean, this seems like a question with a really easy answer, right? But a huge part of the problem is that how we, as individuals and as a society, understand consent can be all over the map. And this right here really gets to the heart of it. So if you've ever felt a little fuzzy on the details, you are definitely not alone. Even academic sources describe consent in a bunch of different ways, which is exactly why it can feel so hard to pin down. Basically, it breaks down into three camps. There's what a person is feeling inside, what they say or do to agree, and then what someone might guess from their body language or other subtle cues. The real confusion and the real danger happens when these things don't line up. And that brings us to a really crucial idea that honestly helps clear up so much of the confusion. The difference between what's happening on the inside versus the outside. You know, true internal consent isn't just one single feeling. It's more like a checklist where all these things have to be happening at once. You have a physical response, you feel safe, you're aroused, you genuinely want it, and you feel ready for that specific thing in that specific moment. But here's where it gets really tricky. What a person is feeling internally doesn't always match what they're showing externally. For example, research makes it clear that just being quiet or not fighting back is often misinterpreted as a yes, even when there is absolutely no internal desire there at all. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? You can literally hear the struggle, the feeling of being lost for words to describe an experience that exists in that confusing gray space between what was felt and what was done. So, with all this complexity, with all this gray area, how are we supposed to get it right? Well, lucky for us, there's a really simple and powerful framework that's designed to cut through all that noise. Let me introduce you to the FRIES model. It's an awesome acronym popularized by groups like Planned Parenthood, and it's a fantastic tool for understanding what real affirmative consent actually looks like in practice. Okay, here's how it breaks down. For consent to be the real deal, it has to be freely given, reversible, informed, enthusiastic, and specific. The biggest thing to remember here is that consent is never a one-time thing you check off a list. It's an active, ongoing conversation. All right, now that we have this FRIES framework in our back pocket, let's put it to work and bust some of the most common and most dangerous myths about consent. Let's start with a big one. Probably one of the most persistent and harmful ideas out there, the idea that if someone is silent, it means they agree. The reality? Oh, it's the total opposite. Consent has to be an active, conscious, and voluntary yes. Silence is not a yes, a lack of resistance is not a yes, and we know from psychology that fear can literally cause a person's body to freeze, making it impossible for them to speak up. Okay. Here's another one you hear all the time, that if you're in a relationship, you've basically got a permanent permission slip for sex whenever you want. Nope. Being in a relationship doesn't mean you own someone's body or their yes. Respect for your partner means asking every single time. Consent has to be given for each specific act, each and every time. What about this one? What if you've already said yes to something? Are you locked in? Absolutely not. This is where the R for reversible in our FRIES model comes in, and it is non-negotiable. Anyone can change their mind at any point, for any reason, and that boundary has to be respected immediately. End of story. So, we've talked about the what and the how, but what about the why? Why does all of this matter so much? Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about following rules or avoiding trouble. It's about building something way better. I love this idea. Consent is the floor, not the ceiling. Think about it. The floor of a house is the absolute bare minimum, right? It's the foundation. You wouldn't want to live in a house that only has a floor. So when you make consent the foundation, that non-negotiable starting point, you get to build something amazing on top of it. You build trust, you build communication, you build real connection. Everybody feels safe, respected, and empowered. And that's what leads to genuinely incredible experiences for everyone. This question just hits so hard. It really pushes us to think deeper, doesn't it? It's a reminder that ethical, amazing sex is about so much more than just getting permission. It's about genuinely caring for and valuing the other person's whole humanity. And really, that's the challenge and the opportunity we want to leave you with. If getting that enthusiastic yes is just the starting point, the absolute bare minimum, then how do we build the rest of the house? How do we create connections that are not only safe and respectful, but are truly deeply meaningful?